Hi, I'm Erik Voss, and we've been hearing a lot about this Han Solo Star Wars movie, how directors Phil Lord and Chris Miller were fired and replaced with Ron Howard. Now, replacing a director in the middle of production has become more of a trend in recent years with Disney properties, with Han Solo, but also, rumor has it, with Rogue One. Gareth Edwards reportedly stepped back during reshoots to allow Tony Gilroy to direct large parts of the movie. And this has also happened with Marvel movies, which are also owned by Disney. With Ant-Man, initial writer-director Edgar Wright left the project after Marvel head Kevin Feige had a new, less edgy script written without Wright's input. Similarly, Patty Jenkins, before she directed Wonder Woman for DC, was initially hired to direct Thor: The Dark World for Disney Marvel, but then she was fired too. And this brings us to the real, deep-rooted reason why Disney-owned studios like Marvel and Lucasfilm keep clashing with these directors. I think that when it comes to the way the studio views its big film franchises, Disney hates originality. Now, what do I mean by that? Or as you may be thinking, how dare you? Sure, Disney is the brand of dreams and imagination, and over the decades it has often led the way in creative risk-taking, both in its storytelling and the way it runs its business. But let's be honest, Disney is not the studio where filmmakers go to be original, to buck the trend, to express their unique voice as storytellers. Like, it's no secret that the classic Disney films that we know and love were really just family-friendly adaptations of darker Grimm's Brothers tales. And even though Pixar, which Disney also owns, has been known for more innovative, original stories, that's only because Pixar fought very hard for that creative independence from Disney. They actually have a list of storytelling rules that intentionally defy the Disney model. Now, yes, people like Kathleen Kennedy at Lucasfilm and Kevin Feige at Marvel do have independence in the way they run their studios, but a lot of their success comes from the fact that they share Disney's creative mindset and general risk aversion. Like, as much as I have loved Marvel under Feige's direction, a common complaint is that each movie feels like the same kind of fun adventure where nothing truly dark ever happens. And Edgar Wright trying to go against that with Ant-Man, an insider put it this way: Kevin Feige and his top lieutenants run Marvel with a singularity of vision, but when you take a true auteur and throw him into the mix, this is what you get. They don't want you to speak up too much or have too much vision. Similarly, the new Disney Star Wars movies have been hugely successful, but some would argue only by sticking close to the script laid out by the original trilogy. Like, J.J. Abrams was given way more control over The Force Awakens, but it was probably really easy for Kennedy to do that because the movie Abrams wanted to make followed the tone and the story beats of A New Hope pretty closely. Meanwhile, whenever these studios try to partner with directors who are known for their originality and boldness, their tendency to resist studio input, even if it risks alienating parts of the audience, these days Disney is far more inclined just to sever ties. Let's look at Lord and Miller with this Han Solo movie. So Lord and Miller are comedy guys. They directed the Lego Movie and the 21 Jump Street movies, and a lot of the jokes in those films come from Lord and Miller encouraging the actors to improvise and go off script. So improv can be a really effective way to make the comedy in a movie feel organic and truly as funny as possible. Directors like Judd Apatow and Adam McKay used improvisation a lot in their films. But it sounds like that process did not gel with the expectations of Kathleen Kennedy and Lawrence Kasdan, who wrote the script. Of course, everyone just chalked it up to creative differences, which is the explanation everyone uses, but here's what I heard. So sources inside the production claimed that the crew was annoyed by the slow process of doing multiple improvised takes and that the humor was getting a little too meta. Some people also said that the acting from Han Solo actor Alden Ehrenreich suffered and that they had to bring in an acting coach because his performance was becoming too much like Ace Ventura. What does that even mean? Is there a scene where Han is like fighting the Sarlacc and then walks out of the room and turns to Lando like, "Do not go in there. Woo!" I guess that's not very good. Now, another source said that Kathleen Kennedy just wasn't a fan of the way that Lord and Miller were doing things from the beginning, hating the way they fold socks. Which is a bummer because have you seen the way Lord and Miller fold socks? So fresh and original. Now, I don't know how many of these rumors are actually true. For all we know, they could just be leaks by insiders at Disney or Lucasfilm to justify this abrupt firing of directors in the middle of shooting, which almost never happens with Hollywood movies. But here's what I do know. know. Lawrence Kasdan is a screenwriting legend who co-wrote The Empire Strikes Back, Return of the Jedi, and The Force Awakens. So yeah, he's kind of the authority on the character of Han Solo. And I honestly wouldn't blame Kasdan if he was frustrated that Lord and Miller were telling Ehrenreich to ad-lib new Han Solo dialogue to replace the lines that he wrote in the script. Han Solo isn't a new, undefined character that filmmakers can organically develop on the fly. He's a film icon with a very specific voice that Kasdan and Disney are understandably very protective of. But the frustrating thing about this isn't Lord and Miller's fault. Lucasfilm and Disney knew exactly what they were getting when they hired those two. Just like Marvel did when they initially hired Edgar Wright, the bold innovator who made Shaun of the Dead, Hot Fuzz, and Scott Pilgrim vs. the World, to make Ant-Man. Actually, back when that firing happened, Joss Whedon said that he read Edgar Wright's script and said it was the best script that he had read for the Marvel Universe to that point. And I've always felt bummed that we never got to see that movie. And now I'm kind of feeling the same way about Lord and Miller's Han Solo movie. Look, even if their movie felt tonally off and too improv-y and meta, with like Han talking out of his butt as he solves pet-related crimes, I still really want to see that Han Solo. And come on, if Disney is worried that a weird take on Han Solo would ruin the Star Wars franchise, obviously that wouldn't at all be the worst thing to happen to Star Wars. Unfortunately, we'll never know what Lord and Miller's movie will look like because Disney and Lucasfilm have replaced them with Ron Howard. Now, Ron Howard is a fine director. He made Apollo 13 and he won the Oscar for A Beautiful Mind. He also directed the Da Vinci Code movies. Yeah, you know, when Hanks rocked a mullet. Also, it seems like Star Wars has been near and dear to Ron Howard's heart for a long time. In 1999, he wrote a really pissed off letter to critics defending Jake Lloyd's acting in The Phantom Menace. Of course, that letter also called Phantom Menace truly amazing. I guess from this point on, if you keep throwing shade at Alden Ehrenreich's acting in Han Solo, expect an angry letter from Ron Howard. I don't really know how much of a vision Ron Howard has for this Han Solo movie, or how much of a vision he really could conceive this late in the production process. It just sounds like Disney and Lucasfilm hired him because he's a safe option. Ron Howard is a veteran director who will probably honor the vision of Han Solo as he's laid out in Kasdan's script. And if you just want a smooth production process so this Han Solo movie comes together in one piece, I guess that's good news. Like, this means we'll get a more purely Lawrence Kasdan Han Solo movie now, and that could be perfect. On the other hand, I feel like Disney's war against originality has stifled a potentially new and bold take on Han Solo, one that could be way better than the one we end up getting. Remember, when George Lucas made the first Star Wars, that movie was nothing like any of the sci-fi fantasy movies that came out in the 70s. It was a huge risk for the studio at the time. There were all kinds of production problems, shooting delays, going way over budget, all for this weird, quirky movie about a space religion and a walking carpet. My point is, the original Star Wars worked because it was original, and it became the biggest movie franchise of all time. And the concern now is film studios like Disney have become so successful at putting out consistent, mass appeal franchises, all by sticking to a proven formula, that they now can't stand the idea of a bold new director allowing his or her voice to change and evolve those franchises. And ultimately, that could take some of the joy and excitement out of the movies, leaving us with our socks folded by Ron Howard. Do you think it was fair that Phil Lord and Chris Miller got fired? Or to look at things a different way, were Lord and Miller justified in diverging from Kasdan's script to go with a more improvisational version of Han Solo? Like, do you think they could have damaged the character's reputation? And do you think Disney plays things too safe in general? Like, I don't mean to come off anti-Disney at all, but I do think they would benefit from letting their directors be more truly original. Anyway, that's just my take, but I'm curious to know what you think. Let me know down in the comments, and hit me up on Twitter at EA Voss, or follow New Rockstars on Twitter at New Rockstars. And of course, like and share this video, and subscribe to New Rockstars for all kinds of videos and opinions about Star Wars, Marvel, filmmaking in general. And if you want to be more part of our team, have a bigger say in what kind of videos we make, and have access to exclusive content, you can contribute to us on Patreon at a monthly rate that you decide. Big thanks to all of our current donors, especially Pony Stark. Thanks for watching, and in the words of my favorite version of Han Solo that we'll never get to see, alrighty then. And I'll just do it.